Many seek the path to victory, but only one can stand glorious over all. At the old world's heart stands the Empire. Karl Franz must prove worthy of the Warhammer.
Hello and welcome to another Total War Warhammer guide. Today we're looking at the big daddy of them all, the Demigryph Knights. Now these, when I was actually playing the tabletop game a few years back, these didn't exist in the game. These are a relatively new addition and they're basically the next sort of step up from your heavily armoured knights. They ride Demigryphs, which are like griffins with no wings, I guess you would call them. But they can do damage in themselves. They're very expensive in the game. They're very elite troops, and you only get a sort of much smaller unit than you would of, say, Knights or even Reichsguard. So they come in two different flavours. You can get the standard Demigryph Knights, and you can get Demigryph Knights with halberds. So we'll see the difference. So the Demigryph Knights are armoured and shielded, and so that means they stop anything but armor piercing, and their shields help against missile troops. They're also armor piercing themselves, so they can take down armored troops, and they're anti-infantry. So these play much like knights in that you're counter-charging, you're flank charging. You don't really want to get these sort of stuck into combat, really. These are your shock troops. You want to hit a unit, break it, move on to the next one, break it, and so forth. So they're 130 armor, which is ridiculously heavy armor. They've got really good leadership, very good speed. They're quick, the old Demigryphs. You've got a decent amount of damage, weapon strength is 66, and a really good charge bonus. They also cause fear, because they are monstrous cavalry, so that can help. Fear, obviously, the unit frightens all enemy units, reducing their leadership when nearby. It's also immune to fear, so that's quite good if you're facing say some orcs with various fear units that you can beat. They can hide in the forest, which is really warm units. So let's look at the differences. I think this is where they're gonna come into their own. So the first thing you'll notice, they're armoured but they're not shielded, because the halberd is a two-handed weapon. It's a big old thing. You need both hands. They're also armour piercing, so that's both the same. But these are anti-large, because the halberd does a large amount of damage. So what these guys are going for are bigger, chunkier units. Like other monstrous cavalry, they're really, really good against big units of trolls or anything that's basically monstrous. And so these have very, very different roles in the game. These are your sort of standard counter charge, flanking chargers, breaking small units of troops, mainly of infantry troops. These are going to go for your monster hunters, basically, this unit. And so they're the same amount of armor. Everything's the same. The spears do, the shock cavalry do, the Demigryph Knights standard do a little bit more melee damage, and weapon strength is slightly more, and they get a better charge bonuses, obviously, because of the lances. Whereas these can hang around in combat a little bit more. You do want to use them as a charge attack, like all other knights, but these can sort of hang around in combat. They can get tied up a little bit more, not with infantry, but with a big unit. They might be able to take them down. So they're both sort of very similar units. So let's have a look at... So here we are up against our same two units we always fight, which is the men-at-arms with pole arms, which are actually very effective against shock troops like knights. So this isn't the best use for them. This is obviously just an example, and just to sort of see them in action, if anything. I forgot to put the hero on a horse, so unfortunately he's kind of wandering along behind. So we just really want to sort of see them in action, really. So we're going to just send them forward, advance on the enemy. Obviously the Demigryph Knights are probably going to do better than the ones with halberds, so against these sort of troops, because they're not heavily armoured troops, they're not monstrous, they're not larger creatures, so they will definitely fare better. But neither really are the sort of units you want to send against these guys, unless it's a flank charge or rear charge, just to try and break that unit. So we're going to send in your standard Demigryph Knights. We're going to tell these guys to wait and see if we can do some impact damage. Here they come. Here they come. Da, 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 da. Oh, that's rude. And so obviously they've got their hero with them, buffing them. So loads of impact damage, massive amount of impact damage. We've already killed almost 20 of their units so far, and for very little losses. But as we get bogged down, this will turn against us. We've almost broken that unit, but because they've got another unit behind and their hero, they might just hang into the fight. And as our Demigryphs gradually get sort of worn down, so they have managed to break that first unit, just about. But as you can see, we're starting to whittle our hit points down now. So let's get these guys out. Get out of there, boys. Get out of there. And we'll send in our fresh unit with halberds, who probably won't fare quite so well, but we've already whittled down this enemy, so here they come. Oh, yeah, they're running away. No, they're going to die. Oh, they've just mowed them down. Oh, my lord, it's carnage. Absolute destructive. If you see the previous video where we look at knights and the Reiksguard knights, they couldn't beat these guys. They got just caught up. They weren't strong enough on the charge to break them initially, whereas these guys seem to be able to do the job. It's still not a fair trade for the amount we're losing against a very cheap men-at-arms, pole-armed unit. It's definitely a loss for us, but at least they're actually winning the fight overall. So it looks like we're just going to clean them up there. Like I said, you know, they've very different uses in the battlefield. You've got your standard ones for your counter-charging, your flank charging, breaking up small units or large units of infantry, whereas the halberd ones are going to go after the bigger creatures, the monstrous cavalry, where they can really go toe-to-toe. They can be used, as you saw, in a pinch. You can use them the same way, but they have their own specialty, which is going after the bigger guys. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. Hope you enjoyed this little mini guide. I'm going to do a guide for every unit in the game. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and subscribe for a ton more Total War content even, and other games and good stuff like that. And I'll leave you with this bloke randomly standing here looking all proud of himself. Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.